Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today something a little bit different. Every car's got a story. Well, every old classic car's got a story, that's for sure. And mine is no different. So let's check out some of the history on my 924. Okay, so let's get into it. I think, as you can see here, this is the original Porsche 924 driver's manual maintenance record from a 1984 model version. So it's been around, what, 36 years, still in relatively good condition. A few minor scuffs, as they would say. And when you first open up, you see very much actually like today you have on new cars, you have sort of the details of the car itself, the model year, potentially, you know, whether you had an automatic or a 5-speed. And then some interesting things here, sort of detailing the miles per gallon that you would get, and this time by the amount of litres used in 100 kilometres as well. So interesting stuff. And I think when you start to look through this, it's such a difference to how modern car book packs or manuals look like today. Many, if not all, sort of moving to an online version. So these are really sort of nice in the look and feel, and the keepsake side of it. You know, you get a nice message about how you should look after your vehicle and the maintenance side of it, and obviously signed by, at the time, the chief exec of the company. And then the usual things, if any of you remember, you used to get these customer cards that if you changed ownership, you could, you know, use these cards and put all the details in and send it back to Porsche. Interestingly, when you look at the actual manual itself, you've got this fabulous green Porsche 924. I haven't, in all honesty, seen many of those that colour, but I think it's a good colour if you're brave enough. And then you get to see a lot of the, you know, just the index pages. I think what's quite interesting actually, when you go through the manual itself, what you see is that the car is, and the details are listed as if, you know, you might have to work on it. It's not like today where everything in your car is sort of sealed, hidden, and if anything goes wrong, it's sort of a trip to the dealership, and, you know, they plug it in and they tell you basically what's wrong, and then, you know, issue the bill and get it fixed. These ones, I think there's sort of this view that those that had a keen hand could probably do some of the light maintenance themselves, even though, you know, I would say, you know, service history is important and stuff, but, you know, there was a lot of people that would do tinkering, and I think that's almost the joy of sort of those classic type cars from the 80s, late 70s, even 90s, that you could do, you know, if you were willing and able to get stuck in and maybe do a bit of fault finding and general maintenance of the car yourself. So a lot of the manual itself is listed in that way, so you can, you know, just get a good understanding of where to find bits and pieces. There's, you know, generally good pictures here, all in black and white, even to the, you know, the types of key and how the doors unlock and work. So there's all of those little bits and pieces. You start to flick through. It's just general sort of how the car works, as you would expect from any manual. But then as you do flick through the various details, and that's just a side bit is quite cool. Maybe the badge on the glove compartment slides up to reveal the keyhole. I'm sure most of those badges have fallen off or have been lost over the years. Certainly I haven't got one, but I don't even know if they come with one anyway. But yeah, and it just gives you a a view of how the car sort of left the factory, and then you get into some of like the, not necessarily how it works, but also some of the maintenance side. So I don't know, it's interesting. I think they sort of give you the opportunity to go fault find if you want to as an owner. You got various things around, clutches, brakes, and an engine, and then sort of hints around the braking period. So it's interesting that you see here also the sort of tips, hints as they call it here, of braking in the engine, something that was very common back in those days, that you would have to go through just a sort of a precaution of how you might drive a brand new engine with these types of cars. So it says here sort of all moving parts adjust to each other during the first 1,000 miles. So what they're basically saying is pistons, engine parts, just general workings of it take time to bed in. So don't be too abrupt. It says here, avoid full throttle starts and abrupt stops. So it's it's quite interesting as a manual when you look at the finer detail. They even give you sort of a set of, I guess by mileage, the sort of things that you should not exceed in terms of how you drive. So do not exceed these speeds during the first 1,000 miles. So 0 to 300 miles. 3,500 RPM in all gears. That's a must. When you get to 300 to 600 miles, only 4,000 RPM. And then between 600 and 1,000 miles, slowly increase to the maximum RPM. Permissible speed of 6,500 RPM. So even though don't go crazy, but that first 1,000 miles, just make sure that you bed in. So I guess for owners in 30 years time, whether that was abided to, you might be having to do a bit of engine work. But anyway, the bedding of brake pads, the bedding of tires, bizarrely, but yeah, it's interesting. So then it goes on to obviously your gears, usual stuff about parking and towing and all of that good stuff, and then ultimately how you get into the hood and some of the little tricks. The rear hood is actually electronic on, certainly on my one anyway. I'm not 100% sure if all of them were like that, or maybe in later models. So it's sort of a switch down in the bottom footwell that you just give a click and pops up the rear bonnet. So pretty advanced of its day, I guess. But removing the sunroof, so it was a tilt sunroof, but you could actually remove it to have a fully open sunroof if needed. Goes through sort of care and cleaning details, that you'd expect, hints for winter. So maintenance and emergency servicing. So this is where you don't tend to see this in the newer stuff now. So how you might change the oil, so sump plugs and the oil filler, going through those details, and it sort of gives you a step-to-step guide of how you might do that. So very cool. Cooling system, again, how you might change your coolant and use it to as a step-to-step in doing that. Checking and replacing oil filter, air filter, oil levels in transmissions, general reservoirs, brake reservoirs, so that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's I suppose pretty good in that sense. Even today, if you own that car, you can do some of those following points, various jacking points, which is standard anyway. fuses. So yeah, slightly different fuses in the older cars, but gives you the general list and stuff. And then yeah, just how you might change bulbs, the type of bulbs, locations and everything, battery checking and servicing. So yeah, it's pretty comprehensive, going through all the details, but it's sort of nice to have. And then goes through all sort of your technical data of the car, weights and stuff, measurements, all your full power curves, acceleration curves on a manual. It's yeah, so all of that's yeah, it's really nice to see. And then you get into sort of the more of the details of the vehicle. So this particular vehicle was supplied in 1984 on the 13th of January by MotorTune Limited. I'm assuming that it was a Porsche dealer of some sort, but or used to be able to sell the Porsche brand. And then obviously the names of the first owner back in the day, and you got the original chassis number, engine numbers, paint codes, the equipment that was ordered, so you got the codes for the equipment and so on. And yes, it's nice. And then you've got the first, I guess, bedding in of the engine. The first check by, again, the company MotorTune Limited in London, and it was done on the 8th of February 1984 at 375 miles. So that first 300 miles, hopefully they didn't go too crazy. And then you have the next service, which looks like a year later, at 13,000 miles. So it says here that servicing should be every 12,000 miles, or at least once a year. Have the engine oil changed every 6,000 miles. So yeah, I don't know if that's been followed to the letter, but you can see there that it's had its first stamp in 1985. And then it looks like, again, that almost 2 years later it's had its second service. Had a Porsche dealer, or a Porsche specialist maybe, at 32,000 miles. So it's yeah, I not necessarily kept to what I call a regular, but that being said, it's all there, it's dated. The next one sort of well, it looks almost 3 years later, in 1990 at 47,000 miles. And then another one at 66. Oh, sorry, done a mistake there. So it actually went from 13,000 over to here at 25,000. Then again at 32,000. Then again at 47,000. Then at 66,000. And I think then there was a break. And when I say a break, the history, and I won't bore you too much with that, but there is a folder full of service history and receipts and so on that the car's had over the years. So that obviously is reassuring that you can see parts and pieces that have been ordered and changed and done. But the last one I had done, which was, it's getting the stamp in the book, isn't it, they say. So I just wanted to make sure there was a stamp when I took ownership of the car back in 2016, and just had a quick oil change done to get a stamp there, just to sort of make a record. But from there on, everything I've been doing on the vehicle is really myself, along with documentation of all of that, both in video, but equally in the service history file itself. So just going through that. So this is really the sort of details of the handbook that you would get. Lifelong guarantee, 7 years. I'm sure those words don't go together, but with that number. So yeah, it's a nice to have, and you know, that's sort of part of, I guess, the history of having an older car is seeing what booklets they come with. Some obviously never got that, and you might pick a car with no history and stuff. Not to say it's a bad one, but it's nice to have some keepsakes. I think this one's a really nice thing to have. This is what they called the Porsche Possessions book. In many respects, it's a catalogue of what you could buy from Porsche way back in 1984, and lovely sort of layout with the Porsche typeface, and a little bit about Porsche itself and the cars, and obviously the history of the cars that were on sale then. So you had 924, 944, 911 and 928 there. So, you know, that was the lineup. A lot of front engine cars, and you know, many of you will no doubt know the history and the battle between front engine and rear engine, but this is the real, I mean, look at this. This is fantastic. I mean, you see this, the original price list from 1984 for all the things in this catalogue that you could buy, and it's not cheap. I mean, there's a beauty case. What is a beauty case? £185 for a beauty case. What else have we got in here? Exclusive sunglasses, large, £65. Or white with chrome, £65. That would have been an interesting one. Then let's see what else we could have had. A gilt lapel pin, £2.95. That's a bit more like it. So, oh, here we are. This is quite cool. A basic carrier for a 924, £168.15. That's interesting. Let's have a look in. Oh, here we go. Look at these. The Porsche luggage set. So, nice black setup with a dash of red straight across it there. It's a beauty case, right? Okay, so the beauty case is 900. The small one there, the beauty case, let's just have a quick look. So that beauty case, £185 back in the 80s. Wow, that had to be pretty well made, I guess. But yeah, you've got suitcases, weekend bag, wardrobe case. Great stuff. Look at this, everything for the discerning Porsche driver. Nice nice kit there that you can use if you go on your travels, wallets and all sorts there. There's the man himself, Mr. Derek Bell, obviously 5-time Le Mans champion, sporting a lovely gilet there. No, it doesn't look like it's Porsche brand, or if it is, it's hidden away, but yeah, they obviously got him to do some of the modelling here. Ties and nice red jumper. These are the watches. So yeah, what a collection. Oh look, these are I guess these are the white sport glasses, more like ski glasses I think, but match the nice 911 Cabriolet here. So I guess these are the sort of things you could order back in the day. And if you were definitely someone who was full into sports and so on, you could carry your windsurfer on top of your 924, maybe some rack of bikes, or even on your 928, some big piece of wood. Nice. But yeah, look at this, luggage nets. Look at that baby seat. Wow. It's almost a burnt rusty orange with lovely red straps. I mean, actually very cool interiors, like the sort of check tooth type there. Wonder how many people actually bought the baby seat. Don't tend to see many with mud flaps on them, but I think it was quite a thing back then. Some nice original mats, playing cards and lighters and all sorts there. So and a lovely Porsche vase in case you wanted that in your house. So yeah, it's a fantastic fantastic book. And even, God, when you think about, so there's the Le Mans car that he drove in 1992. Obviously, back in the day of racing, cigarette advertising was sort of part and parcel of motor racing, from F1 all the way down through. So, you know, this is the collection of merchandise that you could have from Porsche racing, with Rothmans all over it. Obviously, bit of history there. But a very nice pair of books that come neatly together with the car that I bought. So, you know, these are really nice, if not keepsakes, just nice to haves with the car itself. Obviously, along with a whole pack of service history. What is interesting as well, which I thought I would show you, is just, you know, the history of purchasing and MOTs of the car. And I think what you know, we looked at the actual history stamps within the book, but what's quite interesting, I think, just here is the vehicle was bought by an individual back in 1987. So the previous, I guess the person who bought it new owned it for 3 years. I don't have the original purchase price of that, but 3 years after 1984, on the 13th of March 1987, at 25,000 miles, somebody purchased it for £9,700. So yeah, it gives you an idea of how much the 924 in 1987 cost as a 3-year-old used car. So yeah, it's a nice touch. And whether or not this company here, Bramshaw of Bournemouth showroom, whether or not they're still around, I have to check. But that was in 1987 they bought that. And then here in, I guess, 2011, so quite a few years later, best part of 20 odd years, we've got the car being sold again on the 24th of September 2011 for the measly but grand total of £1,000. So, you know, it gives you a perspective of how the Porsche 924, through its history from new down through the years of being a used, very much unloved Porsche of the age, that you could get them extremely cheap. And this one here, yeah, back in 2011, you know, 9 years ago, simply £1,000 that you would have paid. And what I was quite interested in showing you just here as well is that over the years, obviously, of how you get your car MOT'd, and you know, to check that it's actually road legal and you can drive it on the British roads, you can see the ever-changing years of MOT certificates. So some of you will no doubt remember these. This one here in particular, from 1991, and you know, that's several years after, obviously, it is registered in 1984, but we have that MOT certificate. I'm assuming that, very much like today, the first 3 years you didn't have to get an MOT. I'm not 100% sure on that, but something to check, or leave it in the comments below and let me know. But yeah, this is the MOT from 1991, and then this is obviously a good way also to have a bit of history on the car. That obviously before the world of the internet and digital records and all of that good stuff. But we have from 1992, 93, and you can see over the years how the certificates change themselves in colours and design to 90. What do we go? 94. We've got a 96 to 97, and then we've got another little break. We've got a 2000 to 2001, 2003 2003 to 2004, we got this lovely sort of pinkish design, back to more of a green and blue. In 2004 to 2005, then up to 2006, and then the actual details started to change to these, which were more, I think, when we started to get more digital and records were becoming a bit more, I guess monitored maybe is the best word to say. I think this is the 2007 to 2008 MOT. You'd have the inspection house here, which would be stamped, and then you would have the details of the vehicle, which would be a sticker, and you literally would peel the sticker off, and you could put that in the window, and you have this this logo here, which would show that you'd have a valid MOT, and if you were pulled over, they could look at the details on the back of that, and the police could and quite clearly see that the car details had an MOT expiry date there, so they could see if you were driving with a valid MOT. So that was a a nifty idea, and that lasted for what looks like 2009, 2010, 2011 to 2012. And then we had another change. So this is 2013. So sorry, 2012, to 13. So somewhere during that period of 2012, it looks like April, you started to get a lot more digital. I guess is the way where more of these details are collected, databases are being formed, and the record of the car is being kept. And I have it all the way up to 2017, which was the last valid MOT that I had on the vehicle. That was the last time I raced it at Goodwood. So you can see there the time of 1:20 around the Goodwood track on the 22nd of April 2017. I think later that year the car's MOT ran out, and that's when I started to do all the work on the car. So yeah, it's been what, 2.5 years that I've been now working on the car, going from bodywork to suspension to engine and all of that good stuff. So some of the stuff that you would have seen on videos. The one thing I haven't done actually with the videos is all of the I guess pictures and details of the car going through its full respray and details. So I should actually get those stitched together and show you guys, show that I'm not just making things up. But yeah, so that's all the sort of certificates and history books there. And I guess the one final thing that I wanted to show everyone, which I think is a great thing that Porsche do, and you can get this for all of any Porsche that you own. You can write to them as a part of as a small fee, and I think you can actually get these done as well if you join the Porsche Great Britain Club. You get access to doing this, but you can actually write for a certificate of authenticity, and this is really a really nice touch from Porsche on the sort of the classic cars that are still out there. They obviously pride themselves very much on trying to keep Porsches running, and there's a really nice piece of what I call details on cars that you can get, certainly for the older cars. So obviously a nice letter of authenticity from Porsche, going through the details of their build process and so on, and then the actual certificate of the build of my particular car. So here you have, and I'll just take this certificate out, you have the actual build details of the car from 1984. So the Porsche vehicle with the chassis number listed below was manufactured with the following assembly specifications. So you've got the VIN number, the chassis number here, the model year and type, 1984 Porsche 924 Coupe, model based from 1979 to 1985. The engine number, which is an XJ code, which I believe was designated for Great Britain and I believe Europe as well. Date of production and the completion date of the car. So I guess when it rolled off the production line was the 28th of November 1983. The car was registered and sold on the 13th of January 1984. So it obviously travelled over, stored, and went through the process of being sold. You've got the details and numbers for the transmission and type. So again, these numbers are, if you're into all of the classic car scene, these numbers generally are the important things that they all tie up. Whether or not it's massively important to the car making it work and stuff is is another debate. But yeah, date of first registration underneath, obviously completion date. The selling Porsche Centre, AFN Chelsea. That's interesting. So the original details that I just went through there with the book suggested slightly different, but that's where the car was, I guess, the first place it landed in the UK. So AFN Chelsea. The exterior paint code, Copenhagen blue, K3. So that's what I got the car resprayed in. I think the blue is a great colour on them. And then it says here, the interior material colours. So we had this what they call grey beige leatherette, and yeah, the actual seats I've got. I mean, if that's what they call it, grey beige. I mean, it's I guess it's like a champagne-y type, and it's got the Porsche logo that goes through it. So I guess they say Porsche Bloth inlays in grey beige. So not sure where the grey is, but it's yeah, it's beige with sort of dark brown doors and stuff. So very period-like, I guess. But the cool stuff is here, around the optional equipment. So you've got electric and heated door mirrors, headlamp washers, sport steering wheel. Not too sure on that one. A rear wiper, tinted glass, sunroof, electric windows, not waxed. Not actually sure what that means, whether they mean not waxed underneath the car or not waxed on the body. Who knows? Maybe that's the way they just sort of covered themselves in saying that the underneath of the car was not waxed, but yeah. And then it's obviously signed all by managing director of Porsche Cars. So this is a really nice touch. If you do have a Porsche or a classic Porsche, you can, like I say, for a small fee, get this certificate of authenticity sent to you. It's a nice, keepsake, and also a nice hand me on if you do sell the car for an owner that wants to check if the car is as it should be, and the numbers match based on the original car that Porsche supplied and built. I think that's a nice touch. So that sort of completes the details of the Porsche 924 I have, and just some of the history around the car itself, and some of the nice sort of keepsakes that I got with the car when I bought it. And yeah, a slightly different video, but thought it might be of interest to you. And I will have a new video in the next week or so to you. We're getting back on the car and getting through some of the parts that have been niggling me a lot. But thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting, and please follow, subscribe, and I will catch you very soon.